A long time ago, when the sky was white, and the moon told truce, and the blue grass still grew freely in the plains, when the clouds were round and the sea was green, and the birds had only just begun to sing, a dear old owl, for she was dear and she was old, turned to her grandson and whispered, "Did I ever tell you about when we first came to these lands?" "No," murmured the owlet, though he was only half listening. "For everyone who came to the new world," she said, as though starting from the middle, "the old world was wrong in one way or another. Some left looking for hope or freedom, others were running from something big." She took out an ancient tome and blew off a cloud of dust. "You will never understand our history," she said, "until you understand migration." The book opened with a creak, and she read aloud. Welcome to Duality Gamecast, game reviews by people who love to play games.
Greetings everybody and welcome to a Duality Gamecast Battle Royale. I'm William Krill and with me as always is Matt Robinson.
Hello everybody.
Today we're going to be reviewing Migration. To start a game of Migration, choose a player to be the founder. The founder constructs the island you will be playing on using a number of island plates equal to the number of players. After constructing the island, place a fertile region marker on any hexes completely surrounded by land hexes. Then, they may place any other terrain markers as they wish. Next, players secretly choose 12 explorers to play the game with, and now the founder chooses a start player. Players take turn placing explorers on the board. The first explorer placed by each player must be a bass or a wolf, because these are the only ones that do not need a pioneer spirit in order to get on the board. On future turns, you will take one of two actions, expansion or migration. When establishing a town by expansion, place one of your explorers in a frontier region that is adjacent to your pioneer spirit. That place is now a town. Then move your pioneer spirit to that town. When establishing a town by migration, place one of your explorers on a frontier region that is in a straight line coming from your pioneer spirit. This line can go over wastelands, but cannot go over towns. Then place other tiles from your hand face down between them, forming wastelands. Players continue taking turns by expanding or migrating until no player has a legal move, typically due to the board filling up. Then, you count points. Each explorer that's face up on the board is worth 1 point, fertile grounds are worth an additional point, and some of the explorers have bonuses, like rats, which give you an additional point. And that was a quick rundown of the rules for Migration. Matt, how did it play for you?
This is a very unique game. I first saw it on Kickstarter a long time ago. I didn't back it, my bad, but I was very intrigued, and when I saw it at my friendly local game store, I knew, alright, I gotta do right now, I gotta buy this game. And I did, so it's, I want to call it a high-theme abstract game, kind of,
Yeah.
Which doesn't really make a lot of sense, but so the overall theme, obviously, are these different sort of tribes of animals in your team migrating across the world. It's area control.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very abstract. Each piece has a special move or scoring condition or they affect the board state somehow. But there's no auxiliary systems, obviously. There's no resources in this game. The resources are the pieces.
Yes.
So Hive is the game that I immediately think of when I think of this game. You know, every piece is sort of this unique special power. You play them for board position or area control. But it's a little more in-depth than Hive, and obviously it accommodates up to 4 players.
Mm-hmm. Important.
Which Hive doesn't, unless they made a variant I don't know about. But it feels thematic. I mean, it kind of feels like, you know, you're relying on the different powers of these species. It does feel like you're migrating. It's unique. We've played it with 2 people, and we've played it with more than 2. And right now I'm feeling like I like the more than two more. I think the abstract sort of determinism of it really comes out in a two-player game.
Yes.
I think one bad play in the two-player game can really just crush you.
Can set you back.
Whereas, because I'm more prone to try to either be aggro or to lay traps for people, I feel like I have more freedom to take that approach in the like 4-player game. It's a bigger board. There's a little more chaos because you have 4 players. So it probably suits my playstyle a little more. But either way, it's a fun, thinky game. And I was kind of surprised that it actually plays pretty darn quick.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's quick. It's almost the same amount of time on a it's not twice as long to go from 2 to 4.
No.
And one of the things I really liked about it was it's like you're saying, it's an abstract with this like high concept theme on it, because we keep referencing Hive because that's something that's another abstract based on in that case bugs. But each of the animals you pick feel appropriate for what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the bird's good at going long distances and migrating, flying. The fish come from the ocean and can come in anywhere. The rats are just plentiful and are happy. You know, lizards are good in the waste. Like everything, I felt like it was an abstract that then they said, well, we want to put a theme of migration on here. Let's decide, like, okay, let's throw an animal in there. How should that animal work within our game? I feel like they made the mechanic off of the theme, even though it's purely like a mechanic-driven game. I feel like the mechanics were still derived a little bit from the animal themes, and I like that.
I do too. And they have variant versions you can play. Like the rule book is divided into book 1 and book 2.
Mm-hmm.
Book 1 is sort of your basic entry-level game. You don't play with all the animal types. You play with the more nuts and bolts kind of animals, I guess.
Yep.
But once you're good with that, you can go to book 2, which is really just the extra animals. But it also has age cards.
Yes.
Which are basically special rule conditions that change how the game works. And they have multiple ways to implement those. You can just have one that affects the game permanently. Or I believe each player can have one, and they can sub them out.
You can sub out. There's ones that you can choose to as an action, put one into play, and you can see what the previous ones were.
Yeah.
And also, the animals you play with. The base rules seem to basically say, hey, play with everything, draft what you want. That's why they start with a core set of 5.
Right.
And then the rules kind of say, depending on how comfortable you are with the game, introduce one thing at a time until you get used to it. We just threw everything in after the practice games. But I can see this is an easy game to ease people into.
Yeah.
Because you start with something simple, because those basic 5 they give you, really simple. They just all carry the raw mechanics one little step further, and it's easy to play. And then you can have funny stuff like the cactus or poison ivy or wolves and all these other things that add more complexity and more options to the game. I think we found playing it that every time we played as a 2-player game, we never kept the same loadout.
No.
Every time it was, we saw what we did last time, we're like, okay, he did this time. I saw that was a good strategy, but he's probably not going to do that this time. There was a lot of like trying to outthink a little bit of draft strategy, and based on you build the island first,
right?
And the island could be a big chunk that everything gets to fight on, or it can be long and strung out, or there can even be little. There's extra ones that are actually 2 little pieces that spread out. One of them doesn't touch, based on how the island's built, what terrain you throw down. All of that affects what you draft. And every creature combo, there's like a couple of them that seem to work good in pairs. All those have kind of a counter piece.
Yeah.
So you can go like, I have this awesome strategy. I'm going to devote most of my 12 pieces to these 2 animal types. I'm going to conquer the board with it. And then the other guy says, well, actually, I chose just 1 or 2 of the animal that counters you, and it kind of keeps that crazy thing in check. I think that could be possibly the deterrent for this game would be that there is a metagame.
There is.
And you definitely want to play with new people the core game.
Yeah.
Because understanding what the 11 different creatures or whatever it is at the beginning of the game do, some of them seem useless, some of them seem overpowered at the beginning until you realize better handle on the game. Like I know when we first played, rats. Rats are in the core 1, and rats say they score additional points. So I'm like, so every rat village is worth 2?
Yeah.
Why would you never just play with, and they're the most plentiful like creature in the game. I'm like, why would you just play with all rats all the time?
Right.
That's like the newbie strategy. You think that's a good idea, but then you don't have any other abilities. People cut you off. You get trapped. You can't spread out. You start realizing as you play, there's all these other avenues, all this other stuff. And I really like that. I felt like at every game, I learned something.
Yeah, I think this game really caters to people who might want to play like matches.
Yes.
Because you have, it's almost a, think Magic tournament structure. Because one person sets up the board state. The other person can then look at that and build their tribe of animals accordingly, and then that other person does. And then in the second game, now the other person's building the map, and now they're thinking, well, this guy really seems to like rats. Or this guy, he played heavy wolves last time. I'm going to cover all the forest with deserts and mountains. And then the other guy might be like, haha, you know that I know that you know. And suddenly they're playing a bunch of birds or something. So I think that's really cool. Every game's a little different. The materials in the game, because you have so many animals to pick from, but only 12 are going to play. Plus you have a board that's different every time. Plus the tiles are made so they're double-sided, so your board state can change a lot.
Yes.
There's a bunch of terrain, and the more comfortable you get with the terrain, the more you might feel like monkeying around and placing more terrain on the board. So a lot of replayability, I see.
Absolutely.
And a little bit of a competitive feel, potentially.
Yes. Yeah. So overall, where do you think the art and components lie on it? Is it good? Is it bad? Do they need to bump some stuff up?
I think it's really good. The game comes in a box made to look like a book, and it has a little magnetic clasp. So just right off the bat, when I opened this up, took the shrink off, I was like, ooh, this is cool. You open it up, and there's a tray inside. Everything was, of course, originally in its little chipboards and stacked in here all neat. The one downside to that is this is a beautiful box that I think probably the Kickstarter, maybe they had add-ons or plus
an extra animal or something.
Yeah, extra things. So the box doesn't hold everything seamlessly, especially after you've taken it all out. Once you put it back in, the rows where the little Explorer chips go, they don't really, you can't just put them all in their own row. You're moving stuff around. There's a little tray for the tokens and stuff over in one side. You end up putting some of the Explorers in there. The box maybe doesn't close as perfectly anymore. So there's that. But presentation-wise, I love it. I think it looks great. Now the art on the little helper cards for all the races is really nice. I mean, I liked it all. The hexes, the map hexes, they're like nice. They look like, this could have been some Euro Games board, that got chopped up. And like I said, they're double-sided. Now your Pioneer Spirit's a little underwhelming because it's just those little glass beads.
But the graphic design on the actual tiles for all the animals, I think they did a great job with that.
Yeah, it's sort of a screen print, I guess.
Yeah, and it looks like it's basically it's two-tone color on there. Mm-hmm. And even though they're large and they fill up a lot of it, I don't really have any trouble distinguishing them at all. I guess there's like jackals and wolves, but the wolf head is very obviously a wolf head.
Yeah.
So the jackal head very obviously isn't that. But everything I look at, I can tell. I've never been like, I thought that was a different piece. In all the games we've played, it's all been very clear.
There is a lot of clinking of chips throughout the game where you're like looking at them and putting them back down because you don't want to show people. I don't mind that so much. I think you mentioned that maybe if they were hex shaped or something, they could stand on their head.
Or like maybe if you had a little Scrabble thing to throw them all in, just because you have 12 of these and they're your hand. But you can't hold my cards, and you can't hold them in your hand, so they're all face down, and so I tend to start stacking them in their animal types,
right?
But it's secret, so if I have a huge stack of stuff and I pull a rat off of it, you're like, that's his rat stack, he has 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, you can start next level bluffing that and everything, but for my convenience, I just wish there was a little bit more there. The other nitpick I had was each of the different Explorer animal types has its own card, says its rules for how it works on it, and it has a fuller explanation on the back to really help you out. Has the icon so you can match it up really easy with the tile. That was all cool. The thing it doesn't do, though, is tell you how many of those tiles you can have maximum.
Yeah.
Which is a minor quibble because it's however many you have is how many you can have maximum. But because of the way the storage is in this, I don't want to pick it up. I'm like, how many rats do we get? Do we get 5 or 6 rats? Am I missing a rat?
Because they can get mixed.
Because they get mixed up. So then I look through the whole thing, and you look at yours, and like, okay, no, we both have the same quantity. We're pretty sure that's the right amount. Whereas if they just would have put that little number somewhere on here, it would have just eased my mind. But that's a minor quibble, and it's more of just
that's like a reprint.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you feel about the rule book organization and how clear it is?
It's a lot clearer than I was willing to accept at first. When we first were reading this, I was like, well, it doesn't say how many of the animals we get to pick, because I thought you had to draft them or something. And I realized, you just use as many as you want. The reason why it doesn't tell you is it's kind of like that. It doesn't tell you the stuff that it doesn't need to. It doesn't tell you play with as much as you want, because you just play with as much as you want. There's no limits.
We're expecting a catch.
Yeah, that's what it is. I think it's just us being But I loved it. I think it was really cool, really easy to read. Most of it actually is, the rules to how to play are
pretty simple. Basically,
the first 2 pages.
Yeah.
Everything else is the individual explorers, their rule, their better rule explanation, and then kind of some story fluff there to just explain why this oak tree is traveling across the land, type of a thing. So I think we're in agreement on that. But Matt, how would you come across with your review on this? How are you feeling?
I'm not going to call it a must-buy, but I will definitely call it a love it. I really have enjoyed it. As frustrating as getting beat by you a bunch in 2-player was, I still enjoyed it. I still like the concepts. Overall, I'm really happy with the presentation of the game. It feels like a well thought out game. It feels like they put love into the production of this game. And it's a Kickstarter game, which apparently did well enough, because I've seen it in game stores now, which is tremendous. So I could see this game easily having, this is book 1 and 2 is what they call the rules in the set. I could see them doing 3 and 4, another volume, basically. And that would be a lot of fun. And then you could mix those animals into this, and maybe some new terrain effects and stuff. So already in the box, a lot of replayability. And I could see them easily expanding it. So right now, it's definitely a love it for me. How about you?
I'm going to echo you right here. I think it's a love it also. There's been nothing about this. There was my first impressions reading it. I was like, really? This game seems pretty simple. I don't know. But it's from all my experiences with it, it's definitely a love it. I haven't been upset with a single game we've played. The games where I get trounced, I don't feel like it was the game's fault. I feel like, I made that mistake there and you caught me. And the game's quick enough that those early game mistakes maybe you make that catch you up, you're not like, well, there's an hour and a half gone type of thing. It's quick. So even when I'm losing, I'm still enjoying it. Yeah. So definitely a love. All right, you finished our review for Migration. Matt, what do they have to do now?
You need to follow us on Twitter. Check out our Facebook page, give it a like. And if you like driving around and listen to people babble about games, go subscribe to our iTunes podcast.
And as always, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
The founder constructs the island. Wow, I broke.